Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of American Builders. I'm here with Ryan Powell, president of AIM Construction. Ryan, thanks for coming on today.
Garrett, thanks for having me on. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun episode. You've got a great career in the construction industry and the development industry. Let's take it all the way back to your days at JE Dunn, and let's give the audience a little bit of context and kind of where you came from, and just start, I guess, with the background and how you moved into that role of superintendent at JE Dunn.
Absolutely. Well, I think it goes back even further beyond the J. Dunn days. Goes back to as a kid. It's in my blood. I've been building since I was a kid. Um, Taking scraps from the garage and building chairs and building tables and building things. Always looking for the next opportunity to assemble something, to be creative and so led into college wanting to do construction engineering, construction science, and ultimately landed at JE Dunn as a carpenter. Had some opportunities to go straight to management. And what JE Dunn I think does that's so different than everybody else is JE Dunn brings you in as a tradesman. So I came on board as a superintendent in training, and I wore my bags for 4 years. And I really learned the trades. I had to work side by side with the other trade partners on the projects. And I think from a background and ability to manage, I think that's imperative to be able to properly manage a project, to truly understand what it takes to build said project. And so it goes all the way back to as that 5, 6 year old kid in the garage. You're just doing it again, but you're doing it at a much different scale. But it's in my blood. It's a passion. I love it, and blessed to be able to do it every day.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a theme across your career and a theme that we'll touch on throughout this episode is, you then went from JE Dunn to Oddo Development, which we'll talk about, and just having that experience of pretty much every stage and every sort of experience that you could have along this construction life cycle. And I'm guessing has informed a lot of the way you've decided to run and operate AIM Construction today. And we'll get into all of that, but I want to touch on something you mentioned there, which is what makes JE Dunn so different. They're obviously one of, if not the biggest general contractor construction companies in the country. What do you think it is about JE Dunn? And maybe you can pick two or three things, but what stands out to you? And I say, what makes them so different and so successful?
I think their field leadership. I think that their capacity to be, and I'm going to use this term a lot today. They are builders. They're unbelievably talented builders. The superintendent, and it starts at a leadership level. I'm not trying to discredit what happens behind the scenes, if you would, because that's very imperative to the project's success. But without the focus on the build, the relationship with the client, the quality of the product, the safety that's the pre-planning that orchestrates that safety, that quality, the schedule, and ultimately the execution of the project is imperative. So what differentiates JE Dunn, where I think that, and I'm biased because I was there for 11 years and had a wonderful run with them and can't thank them enough for the opportunity. But I think that it goes back to their field focus in the project performance and execution, I think is paramount in what separates JE Dunn. But I also say that I think that mindset of the superintendent training program, I think that just kind of sets a baseline of what are our expectations, guys. You're going to go to college. I believe college is very important, but I don't think it's a yellow pass to go straight to be the boss. Everybody comes out of school thinking that they want to be the boss. What does that mean? I don't know that many new grads coming out of school understand what that means. So I think that it's important to be to be kind of forced into the reality of what are you doing? What is construction? What are you asking the concrete guy, the dirt guy, the utilities, the electricians, the plumbers? What are we expecting of them to do? And is it realistic of what we're asking them to do. And if it's not, let's sit down and have that conversation. What do we need to do? What do we need to align? How do we need to adjust schedule? How do we need to adjust sequence? How do we need to adjust all of the different variables that go into play when you're setting a project up? Is imperative to that, and it all goes back to that project superintendent, the
Hmm.
builder, that mindset.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more and just kind of hone in on the superintendent role. What makes a great superintendent? You mentioned there that they have a superintendent training program. What are kind of the 2 to 3 pillars of that program that they focus on that say, hey, if you're going to be a great superintendent, here are some of the characteristics or attributes that you need to have?
I think the first thing is you got to listen. You have to listen. If you're not willing to listen, um, I don't think that you can be. I don't think you can reach your max capacity, because the the tradesmen on site know far more than they're ever going to convey. If you're not willing to listen to them, and at least consider their thoughts, again, it goes back to that that understanding and appreciation for what it actually takes to build. And so a good superintendent listens. Um, a good superintendent plans. A good superintendent has some foresight into where are we going? What are we trying to accomplish? And how are we going to get there? It's a teamwork mentality. So they're going to listen, they're going to plan, and they're going to understand that without the team and without everybody participating in that same mindset, the project is not going to go as well as it could. And so bringing everybody together, bringing everybody in a true open line of communication. Um, I was recently talking to somebody that about opportunities as superintendents, and one of the questions he had asked, he said, "Well, do you do you yell? Do you scream?" And I thought it was an interesting question. So then so you asked that question, and it spurs a thought in my mind as to superintendents can be pretty abrasive. They need to be abrasive. There's a time and place to be abrasive, but that doesn't mean it's every day. So it goes back to that listening, that teamwork, that focus, that preparation. All of those things come into play for a successful project.
It almost reminds me of, the characteristics or attributes of a good, NFL GM or a good head coach, if you will. Having the balance between knowing when to kind of get on people versus knowing when to listen, and again, planning, strategic. I feel like that's a
Absolutely.
fair, yeah. Okay,
Absolutely.
let's get into the development side. So you were at JE Dunn for 11 years. What did the transition into Oddo Development look like? And then just touch on what your role at Oddo was specifically.
Good question. So, um, the the I'll say the only reason that I left JE Dunn was because of I was traveling.
Mm.
Um, I'm a family focused man. I'm a husband. I'm a father to three wonderful kids, and I think that that's important for us to prioritize things in life. And I think that my family is my number one priority. I don't think I know they are. And so I was traveling. I had a wonderful opportunity for Jay Dunn down at Lackland Air Force Base. I had a 2-year-old at home, wanted to get back home. Ultimately, saw an opportunity to come back to Kansas City and work for Oddo Development. My title was Director of Construction. I was an in-house basically in-house GC, general contractor for the Oddo family, for Oddo Development. So my primary role was more construction focused, um, leading the construction division for Oddo Development. Um, with that being said, as I was able to get into it, understanding more of what is is important to a developer, all of the different components that go into it. At JE Dunn, I would receive a set of plans and specifications, sometimes a schedule that was put together before I was engaged. And then I would revamp the schedule, start the pre-construction meetings, all of those things that we've talked about previously, but not understanding or having an appreciation for what developers do behind the scenes before the general contractor is even selected was mind blowing to me. Um, so I think that I know we're going to touch on here in a bit, but having an understanding, okay, now I've done the general contractor. I've worked for JE Dunn. I've built some incredible buildings and opportunities and relationships and all of those variables at play. But seeing what goes on from land acquisition and planning and all the things that have to happen before that project gets the building permit and the green light to go, the project financing. I mean, there's so many things that come into play that that I had a new respect for developers.
Yeah, I would think the financing piece has to be one of those pieces that you never really touched on the general contracting side. How much of that were you getting into with Oddo Development? Were you kind of, overseeing the numbers? Was that somebody else handing the information off to you? What did the finance side of that look like?
I wasn't too involved in the project feasibility from a finance. I was more involved in the construction finance, the cost, the implementation cost of what we're trying to accomplish, doing feasibility studies, feasibility pricing, looking at opportunities to if we added additional or combined two commercial lots and do one single structure versus two separate independent structures. And but to answer your question, I was not on the Rick handled that from the developer finance side. I would
Right.
provide the construction costs um, for feasibility studies.
And then you said you were kind of the self GC. Was there still general contractors kind of underneath you that you were going out and hiring, or were you fully acting as the GC, hiring all the subs directly?
Question. I was the only GC fully responsible for buyout contracts, schedule, construction, sequence, all the above. We had there was myself, two full-time superintendents, and two assistant superintendents on the team there, Dodo.
And so where my mind goes here is you were kind of teed up perfectly to where you were working within Oddo, but you were able to really kind of hone in the role of what would it look like if I ran my own general contracting company? Is that a fair assessment? You were basically you kind of started your own business, if you will, within Oddo. Talk to that a little bit, and then was there a point where you realized, hey, I could actually just do this myself?
No, good question. I have a tremendous amount of respect for everybody that I've had the opportunity to learn from. Grandpa told me a long time ago, be a sponge in life, absorb, soak it up. Um, Tremendous opportunity to be behind some great leaders there at JE Dunn and tremendous respect for Rick Oddo. Rick Oddo is again, I'll be biased, the best developer in Kansas City, right? He's phenomenal at what he does. But I think it did give me some behind the scenes um, kind of a view of what the opportunity could be. My JE Dunn days, I was so focused commercial. I love commercial building. I love ground up building. The developer experience, I love the developer kind of the infrastructure and how all of those pieces come together. Again, going back to the statement of not understanding or appreciating when you come to a pad ready site, what happened before that, being responsible for ensuring that all those utilities were at that said pad ready site, whether I was building it or Rick was going to do a land lease to somebody else or sell the lot to somebody else, whatever the situation was. Um, so yeah, I couldn't have done it without the support and the leadership and everything that they have done for me. But ultimately, yes, it did. I've always had the itch to go and do it, and I decided I had to scratch it, and had a customer that I've done a lot of work with. Um, I say a lot, it's all relative, but had done quite a few projects with that had tremendous confidence in me as a builder, had an appreciation for me as a builder, and an opportunity that I couldn't pass up.
So let's talk more about the entrepreneurial leap, if you will. The moment you decided to go all in. Walk me through that. What kind of fear was in place? Was there some anxiety about what is the future going to hold? Was it pure confidence? Just talk me through the emotions of going from a long career working for somebody else to now you're fully on your own.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think that the the fear is the unknown, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's what I think anybody. I think it's what separates somebody who's willing to make that jump and not is is that you forego all that comfort that you have with an employer. Um, but I think that it's that mindset. I think you have it or you don't. And I think those that are successful in entrepreneurship and business have a peripheral view of what opportunity can be. But I also think that it's that the you have to overcome that fear of the unknown with confidence that you're going to surround yourself with family and friends and then getting into the professional world with suppliers and trade partners and it all goes back to relationships. Um, and so I while yes I was fearful, I really wasn't scared of failure. I was confident in the community that I have around me. I was confident in my experience. I was confident in being able to lean on some mentors that can provide some business guidance. But I also knew it wasn't going to be perfect. I knew I was going to stumble. I knew I was going to trip. Um, but it had to be it had it had to be a level that I was comfortable taking from a risk perspective.
You mentioned there the comfort of having employment, and a lot of people use this term, the golden handcuffs, right? You've got a great salary, you've got benefits, 401k, the whole nine yards, right? And that's a great thing to have. But it kind of puts you in those handcuffs to where, oh, this is so good. Do I want to go out on my own thing? And it's just this, people who take that entrepreneurial leap, there's always that golden handcuffs. And kind of where my mind went here is, you made this jump into the world of entrepreneurship a little later in life. I made it kind of right at the start of my career. And at the end of the day, when you're at the start of your career, the risk, if you will, of failure is, I'm so young. It's like I could fail for 5 years and still be a young guy and have learned a whole bunch of things, probably a lot more than I would have if, I never did this. And then conversely, when you have a lot of experience in relationships and all of that stuff in place, that kind of de-risks things as well. And I just say all of that to say, the golden handcuffs are great and there might be a sense of risk, but whether you're young and you have a lot of time to fail, or you're a little bit older and you have a lot of relationships and experience to rely on, take the leap. The risk isn't necessarily as large as you might think. So love all of that.
Absolutely.
So let's
No,
dive
I think that,
into.
and I do want to touch on that,
Mhm.
like you mentioned, I mean, I think that we all, we work to provide a living, right? I've got a family to support but I'm going to state that I don't do this entirely for the money. I'm not independent wealthy. I need to work to provide. But I'm also going to say that I'm passionate about construction. If I didn't have to build, I would still build. Um, it's the tangible aspect, the relationship aspect. It's it is it is truly something that I love doing. And I think it's important to note that so many people think that I'm going to go out and I'm going to start a business because I'm going to be a millionaire. And it's like you've already started down the wrong path, guy or gal. If you're going to do this because of the money, you're not doing it for the right reason. The money can be good, but adversely it can also not be. And so do it because you love what you do, and because, as I said earlier, you got the itch that you got to scratch.
Mhm.
Um, do it for the right reasons. because the monetary benefit, while it can be there, shouldn't be the sole reason you're doing it.
It reminds me of a story about Mark Zuckerberg when he was pretty early on in Facebook. He got an offer from, I want to say it was Yahoo or something like that, to acquire Facebook for over $1 billion, and he's in his early 20s, and he turned it down. And it's kind of this legendary story. And his reason is, well, if I sold the company, I would just go and start another social networking company. And it's like, it's like I would just go and do the exact same thing I'm doing now. So why would I sell the company? And it's kind of touches on
Right.
that
Mm.
exact lesson you were talking about there. So let's dive into AIM Construction specifically. What was that first job that came through that you guys started working on? How did it come about? And just kind of give me the full details of that first job you guys did.
I think it goes back to you never know when that opportunity is going to come. You never know what decision or what appears to be a very small favor that you've done, or a small gesture of kindness, or a small project, whatever that is. The little things matter, personally, professionally, in life. The little things. So it started back at as an office remodel. And the office remodel led into another office, which led into another small coffee shop. And as we built our relationship as a contractor and owner, those little projects, we kept winning, and we were able to build a product that in a time frame that nobody else was able to do, at a price point that nobody else was able to do it either. And those things just kept adding up, and then had an opportunity to go build a large entertainment concept in Overland Park. I'm sure everybody's familiar with it by now, but it's called Tap-ins Golf. And that project opportunity came from a small office renovation. All relatively speaking, it was a very meaningful office renovation. So when I say small, I don't mean from a monetary standpoint. But it was a very important project to me. It was an important project to the owner. Every project is important. The scale of the project, the value of the project isn't what makes or dictates how important it is. Um, and so little things matter. And so Tappan's Golf came was brought to me before AIM was a company. And I got to just thinking about, do I want to do this? Is this the right time? I'm in a very good place with a very good, wonderful developer at Oddo Development. Um, but again, it wasn't entirely about the money. It was about the opportunity, and it was about the satisfaction, the job satisfaction of doing it on my own. And people question, can you really do this? And I never wavered. Absolutely. The initial concept was a restaurant and miniature golf, and the discussion of a greenhouse. And all of a sudden, this greenhouse is now, it's 26,000 square foot greenhouse. Okay, so let's figure out, how are we going to build the greenhouse? Well, I've never built a greenhouse before, but it's still a structure. You still have foundation, you still have structure, you've got a lot of glass. Okay, well, then codes get involved, and now you got to, because of occupancy levels. So how do we navigate all of this? Well, you do it by focus. You do it by, what's your intentions? What are you trying to accomplish? What is the end result that we're trying to accomplish? And everybody on that team, I've not been involved in a project with so much excitement and so much energy. It was fun. It was, candidly, it was the most memorable project I've ever done.
Wow.
I think that the results indicate that the energy level, from ownership all the way down to the trades on site, and the suppliers and the vendors and everybody who's making it operate today. So
Absolutely.
so yeah.
You mentioned kind of the satisfaction that comes with, doing the job on your own. Talk about that a little bit. You mentioned, it started off with some small jobs, but just the general satisfaction that you feel when you get, even if it's the smallest job, when you know it's something for your own business that you generated, how much better does that feel as opposed to doing it for somebody else? For us, it's like the first insurance policy I sold was very small, but it was like, let's go.
Oh,
We
absolutely.
sold we sold a policy. We've done it once now on our own. Now we can do it a million more
Yep.
times. Talk to that a little bit.
So the excitement for me is how important is the project to the customer? Like they're bringing to me, they're like, hey Ryan, I have this concept, I have this vision that I want to create this. And my excitement is is as much of a level of confidence in being able to to provide that vision or bring that vision to reality, um, as it is the excitement for the company. I mean, for me, the excitement in getting awarded a project. So we just got awarded an opportunity. Can't talk publicly about it at the moment. But we just got awarded an opportunity last week, on Friday, that I've been working on for 4 months. It's not monetarily a big project, but it's a meaningful project to the community. It's a meaningful project to the owner, as much a meaningful project for AIM. Um, and so his excitement and meeting with him, he has this vision. And going back to that tangible aspect of what construction is we're going to take some before photos of what it was, and we're going to bring his vision to reality, which will support his business, which supports the community. It supports the patients. I mean, it kind of is that full community bringing everything together that I love.
And I would have to imagine some of your experience with Odo and being on the development side kind of leads to that where, you were on the opposite side of it where you had the developer's interest in mind and understood all the excitement and passion that goes into it over there. I would have to imagine that kind of gives you the ability to have some empathy, if you will, or put yourselves in their shoes. And just talk to that a little bit on how much you're able to use those learnings to just improve the customer experience, right? Because you were basically, you were who your customers are now. So just talk to that a little bit and how you've been able to kind of put yourselves in their shoes a little more.
And what's important from a value. Value is a pretty loose term in terms of what does that mean to a different person. Um, I that the understanding, I think that transparency is paramount in all aspects of this business. If I've got an owner who's keeping some something in his cuff because he doesn't want to release or what doesn't want control of X, Y, or Z, um, it prohibits me to be able to provide a full service to him to be able to ultimately meet the demands that he's expecting. And so I think transparency is key. Um, and so having an understanding of what's important from a customer standpoint, from a value standpoint, from which correlates to the monetary aspect of what we do. Um, the uh, a $5,000 expense on a $50,000 project is substantially more than a $5,000 expense on a $15 million project, but it's still 5,000 for people's money is important. And seeing it on the developer side, everybody thinks, oh, these developers, they live in they make all this money and they have all this success. Well, the reality is they also have the most risk. And so treat everybody's money like it's your own,
Mm.
like it's your own. And the value, which again is correlated to the total sum, but it's more what are you trying to accomplish? What's the outcome? What's the goal?
I like that quote there. Treat everybody's money like it's your own. You just hear so often when it comes to trades and construction, whether it's a homeowner who's building a custom home for the first time or a developer who's building a massive project. There's just, there's tends to be some frustration when it comes to tradespeople not showing up on time or leaving the job site dirty. And so I think those two things you mentioned there of transparency in terms of timeline, pricing, setting expectations properly, that
Absolutely.
combined with, treating every dollar like it's your own will lead to a much happier customer experience.
Absolutely. And that's the goal. Again, I think that but it all goes back to the onset of the first conversation about the project. It's transparency, it's expectations, it's clarity, and it's establishing the goals. So yeah, absolutely.
What does the future look like here? We'll kind of close it up. We're coming in on time. Where do you see this going in construction? What are the kind of 5 to 10 year goals here?
Good question. I think that it's hard to put a our goal is to be the best builder in Kansas City. That is our focus. We will be the best builder in Kansas City. That doesn't mean that we're going to be the builder on every corner of every project, chasing every opportunity there is. We want a very client-focused approach. We want a value that we bring, and we recognize that that value is limited in terms of coverage. We can't go. We're a two-man company today. We're going to be a three-man company in a week. In 6 days, I've got our third employee coming on board, which we're super stoked about. So it's over. It's recognizing your strengths. It's committing and following through with your commitments. So it's if you say you're going to do something, you do what you say you're going to do. You don't overcommit because of the appearance that there might be additional revenue or money to be made or profit. That's not our focus. Our focus is is doing what we say we're going to do the right thing. And so the 5 to 10 year goal for AIM, it's hard to an exact number to that. We're going to continue to grow as builders. We're going to continue to grow the team. We're going to grow the team with like-minded individuals, and we're going to grow the team with people that I'm confident that'll provide that experience, that user experience for many more clients, hopefully to come.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Appreciate your time.